Good morning. My name is Anna Swardensky. I am CADRE's Director of Planning, Training, and Community Resilience, and we welcome you to today's program entitled Government and CBO Coordination in Times of an Emergency. So with that, our welcome remarks. If you could get underway by typing your name and your organization in the chat, that way everyone who's part of today's program gets to see who else is here. And if you wouldn't mind on your Zoom window identification, if you would also change that to say your first name and your organization, then when we hear you speak, we'll have a reference point. So you can see where it says Marsha-CADRE, and I've got a couple screens going, so don't worry about the extra CADRE screens. We'll explain that in a few moments. But thank you for joining, and we are offering two accessibility features, one via Zoom itself, which is the Zoom transcription. If you would like to see live transcript going, someone give me a high sign. Jennifer, I can see your camera. Is live transcript running on your end? Or the subtitles? I just want to double check that you can see that.
I don't see it, but I wouldn't know what it would look like. I see your PowerPoint welcome slide, and I see everybody's faces and the chat.
Okay.
Now I see it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Got it.
Live transcript allows you to run either subtitles along the bottom of your screen if you so desire. If you find that distracting, you can hide the subtitles. You can do a pop-out window where a full transcript will just run in a side panel, kind of like your chat box. So you are welcome to use the transcription feature within Zoom, and every user gets to toggle that on or off for their desire. We are also running transcription using Otter AI, and there's a little box in the upper left-hand corner of your screen, and you're able to open an Otter artificial intelligence live transcript in a separate browser window. Sometimes participants we know like to run it as a separate browser altogether. So with that, I am your access coordinator for today. So I hopefully am at the top of your participants list in all capital letters, access-Anna. If you have any accessibility issues, please feel free to direct message me throughout today's program. And so with that, I am going to transition things to Marsha, if you are ready. Marsha is CADRE's Executive Director, and she's going to get us underway with our workshop objectives today.
Thank you, Anna. Good morning, everyone. Good to see this group today. The objectives of our workshop are to inform all of you about the existing resources and processes related to local assistance centers and donations. Explore planning gaps and how organizations can work together to fill them, clarify roles and responsibilities of government and our whole community partners, including CADRE, the nonprofits, community-based organizations, faith-based organizations, schools, colleges, volunteers, and everyone that I just forgot to mention. In the past, we've used this CBO government coordination workshop in a more general way to talk about just the overall coordination that government and nonprofits, how they work together. But today it's going to be more focused. This session will be the coordination specifically for working in local assistance centers and coordinating with donations and public information and those types of things. So those are the objectives. And the agenda. Okay, so this is a follow-on to the two tabletops that we did earlier in September. And so just to recap where we are in case you missed those, and those recordings are online if you want to go back and catch up. But on day one, on September 1st, we talked about what to do when the fire started. This is a wildfire scenario. We were gathering information. Where were we gathering information? What public information messages should go out, and the importance of well-scripted alerts and warnings. We'll talk a little bit more in depth about day 2 on the next. CADRE and the VOAD community, then all of the people that I named in the other slide are now taking a more significant role in the disaster. The fire engines and police vehicles have gone. Things are more under control, except that we have this community of people that have been evacuated. And so this is the time when the nonprofits really start to rise to the occasion and do a lot more to support government. And so if there's time at the end of the presentation, I just calling on the PIOs to make notes on what you might want to pre-script for public information messages based on what we're talking about today. And then on day 4, we'll be doing that at a future date, and that will wrap up the fire completely, which means that we will go through the debris removal and the long-term recovery process. And then we will have done presentations from the beginning of the fire all the way to the end. And the next slide. Okay, so this is just a little bit more detail about what we did on day 2 of the tabletop exercise before, just to get everybody up to speed. We talked about the temporary evacuation points that have to be in place when an evacuation warning is posted. It's operated by the jurisdiction. There is a registration process needed so we can capture all of those evacuees and know where they are, capture all of their information. And then we sheltered 1,500 households who evacuated. 1,500 didn't actually need shelter, but that's how many evacuated. So then we have to plan from there. The Red Cross, we learned last time, can open in Santa Clara County 2 concurrent shelters, and then they've got to call in people from the outside. And then it might be necessary to contract with another organization if sheltering is going to take more than a couple of weeks, because the Red Cross is only for the immediate needs. But if there are people that are going to take a little more work to get into some permanent housing, Red Cross is not set up to continue to operate shelters. And at this time now, we're all over the news, and our PIOs are doing a lot of interviews, and they're setting up interviews with firefighters and evacuees. Next slide. All right, so you've probably seen this slide. We use it a lot. It just shows how disasters are coordinated from the field level to the local government to the operational area, which is our Santa Clara County Office of Emergency Management, but the op area is all of the cities and the county. And then it goes up to the region. The state has 3 emergency management regions. And then if they can't assist, then they go to the state to do more coordination. And then if there's a federal declaration, we have federal assistance. CADRE and the VOADs work the same way. It's that same hierarchy so that nonprofits can work individually to assist. So if you were doing that, you would be that field level. A city can support a nonprofit. That would be the local response. If more coordination is needed, CADRE can come in as the county-wide coordinating entity. They coordinate with the operational area to share information and identify resources. Then there's a Northern California VOAD, a region, if you will, that supports CADRE for sharing needs with other Northern California counties, so maybe they can assist. And then there's a state VOAD, and the state works directly with the FEMA and the FEMA Voluntary Agency Liaison, which is the person that we would work with as that VOAD connection at the national level. Now, just one more thing, the term voluntary agencies is sometimes misunderstood to be a group of untrained volunteers who come out to help where they can. But in reality, voluntary agencies are a group of nonprofit professionals who voluntarily offer their expertise during times of disaster. There's no legal requirement for nonprofits to help their communities. They voluntarily do that to provide the greatest benefit to the community. And in fact, there are national organizations of nonprofits who respond everywhere in this country and other countries, such as the United Methodist, Team Rubicon, the Suchi Foundation, IsraAid, SIWA International, and all those organizations have been in Santa Clara County this past year supporting us with COVID and the fires. Next slide. So just a few assumptions on, what's the focus of government? What's the focus of nonprofits? We have different roles, but they do complement each other. So for local government, they may need resources, community-based resources, to meet the needs of the community. They may not be familiar with the most useful or appropriate community-based or faith-based organizations to meet the needs, because there are a lot of you, and it's just difficult to develop those relationships across many, many organizations. And then government is primarily focused on government activities, as they should be, and the infrastructure. So protecting lives, property, and the environment, restoring utilities and things that aren't necessarily people focused. And then the next slide, for nonprofits, their focus is all about the clients. They work with their clients every day. So they meet those needs on a daily basis. So they've got an expertise within their community to work with the population segments like seniors and children and the food insecure, people with access and functional needs, immigrant populations, non-English speakers, those that are low income. So for government, these are your subject matter experts if you want to know, what kind of issues might arise in the community that's affected. They know and work in their communities, and they have for a long time, so they're trusted sources. Excuse me. The community will look to these sources for information about recovery activities. So government PIOs should be working with CADRE, who pushes that information out to all of our CBO partners. And just the thing to remember is that while the nonprofits do a great job on a day-to-day basis of serving their clients, when a disaster happens, the needs rise a lot. And so they may not have the ability to expand their services for disaster response without some coordination with government. So that coordination is really needed. Some nonprofits have contractual relationships with jurisdictions, with the finance and the grant representatives. So there may be assumptions there that those folks will be able to give them disaster-related information, but the people working in finance and grants don't always get put in the Emergency Operations Center, and there may be a totally different contact there. So all of the disaster coordination should come through the folks in the Emergency Operations Centers for the jurisdiction. So just make sure that that's who CADRE works with, so we can make sure that you're getting answers to your questions. Next slide. All right, so this is day 3 now of the wildfire that we've been walking through. And this is when CADRE would conduct the coordination call or an in-person meeting. These meetings are announced on the CADRE website under the response and relief section. You can see in the screenshot, it shows the website. The announcement would be posted on this main page, and then you can pick the current activation. This was, I think, the first year we had 3 things going at one time. We had fire response, we had COVID, and can't remember what the third one was. It's grayed out on the screen, but normally they're grayed out if there is no activation, and then they'll be red if they are. So if you wanted more specific details about the activation for the fire, you would click on that icon that says fire and be taken directly to that page. So the purpose of the call is to identify needs, reduce duplications, identify service gaps, and share information about the current activities. And the participants are generally every nonprofit that's already assisting the community, those that are looking for ways to help, and all levels of government. So the call will begin with a briefing from the impacted city or cities to share what they know about the event. If the state or the county or FEMA are involved, they may have additional information to share. Then the nonprofits share what they know and ask questions. So this is all to make sure everybody's on the same page and nobody is, we're all working with the best information that we possibly can. And then the everyone in the room breaks up into small groups that are functions. The next slide. So the functions, there are many ways that the community gets assisted. Most of you on this call have provided assistance in some of these categories, and I'll read them out for the visually impaired. Emergency shelter, food distribution, access and functional needs, donations management, finance assistance, client case management, crisis support or mental health, cleaning and rebuilding, housing, and much more. So if you would, if you did provide services in the last couple of years for any of the disasters that we've been facing, could you just type in the chat the name of your organization and what types of services you provided, particularly if they're not on this list, because then we'll just expand our list as we're developing some more of these plans. And let's see, next slide is function teams. Let's see, what do we have in the chat? Because I'm curious.
Not yet. I think people are typing. I did have a question entered. Are we going to get a copy of the presentation? And yes, the answer to that is we will post the recording of today's program and the PowerPoint slides and any handouts or resources to our CADRE website. We'll show you exactly where at the end of the program. But we have a question in the chat box from Morgan Hill, Office of Emergency Services. Are there any agencies on today's program that helped with vaccination clinics? And the details of what folks have been doing are starting to come in now. Supply bank, material needs donations, Catholic Charities, assisted with food, fire, case management, rental assistance. Keep it coming, folks.
That's awesome. Yep, and many of these services are things that government can't provide. They don't have expertise in this area. And that's why it's so important that we're working together. That's awesome. Okay, next slide. All right, so the function teams. If you're not registered with a CADRE function team, I'd ask that you register as a partner as soon as possible so you don't miss anything. CADRE receives information and opportunities that are related to the different functions on a regular basis, and we pass them along to function team partners so that there are classes you can take or there might be grants available. And we just want to make sure that you don't miss anything. And it just makes it a little bit easier for us to plan ahead for how many organizations we have all working together. Okay. All right, so let's go now into the scenario and our first small group activity. So this is, we're following on the disaster. The city is reporting that the fire is now contained, but the air quality is still bad. They need to go into the area now and begin to do damage assessment on all of the properties to determine when people will be allowed back into the area to look for belongings. No one is allowed in yet because it's not safe. They've got to do more inspections. There are 1,200 buildings that were damaged or destroyed, so they're going to need a bit of time in order to do that inspections. And their city's promising to provide an update in about 5 days. That'll be upon completion of the inspections. And then the Red Cross reports that they have 5 shelters open with a total of 845 clients. There is also an animal shelter with approximately 200 dogs and 250 cats that are housed under some pop-up tents in a local park near the shelter. And those numbers are low. Actually, if you look on the veterinary medicine website, there's a calculator and you can see how many dogs and cats are in our community. And then that's not to mention horses and other types of pets and all of the little pocket pets, the hamsters and guinea pigs and birds. Okay, so that's the end of the scenario. I'm going to turn it over to Anna now to conduct the first activity.
So this data is for when we're walking through this, it's for a city. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is, and
okay.
We didn't pick a city because you can just
Sure.
imagine it's in your city.
Sure.
And so, and maybe the fire didn't happen in your city, but maybe the jurisdiction was overwhelmed and they asked you to take on some of the roles. So now we're just going to, well, I'll let Anna. I'm not going to steal her thunder.
Okay, so folks, here's where you're going to get to be interactive with today's program. We are going to have you split into 4 different breakout groups, and we are going to be using Google Jamboard. So if you have never used Google Jamboard before, go to your chat box and click the link in your chat box. And that will open a separate browser window for you, and you'll be taken to a set of 6 little cards that are what we call the Jamboard. What you have on your screen that I am sharing is the cover slide of our Jamboards for today's discussion purposes. And now I'm going to move my screen to what hopefully your screen will look like. And let me tell you how you play in the Jamboards. When we go to each of the different groups, there's this cover slide that starts right here. And the way that you will contribute to your room's discussion is using this tool right here. It's called a sticky note. And if you're in the session, I see 16 of the 33 of you have logged in. So some of you aren't clicking on your button yet, so you might want to do that. You can click on this sticky note. It will pop open a window. You can pick your favorite background and you can type in your note and you hit save. If you wanted to add something to the discussion via sticky note, you hit save and it magically pops up on that screen. Okay, you're welcome to practice right now and hit the sticky note and put a couple of things up on the board so we know that you know how to use the tool. You do not need to worry about any of these other control features. This is a pen, an eraser, a pointer, just the sticky note. Yes, somebody said good morning. Don't worry about any of the rest of these things. And we will have a facilitator in each of the 4 breakout rooms. Right now, I'm just walking you through how to use the tool. Love it. See people moving things around, putting good morning, hello up there. Okay, while you're doing that, I'm going to show you what's at the top. There's supposed to be 6. Somebody added an extra card by accident. Don't worry about that. There are a number of different cards here, and you get to control which screen you're looking at. The cover slide. The next slide is all of the discussion information. And then there's a board for each of the 4 rooms. And there's one extra, and I'll clean that up later. Don't worry about that. I have one very important request for you when you're using this tool. Please do not ever hit clear frame, because that will erase what is on the board. That's the only thing I ask you not to touch. And other than that, if you have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat. I see 18 of you in the Jamboards. If you're not comfortable using Jamboards, once you move to your breakout room, you're welcome to just use the Zoom chat feature to add content. Your facilitators are all ready to have that be also another way to participate in your discussion. So if you're uncomfortable with the Google Jamboards, use your chat feature. And I'm going to go ahead now and open up the breakout rooms, and your facilitators will guide you to where you need to be during your discussion. Okay.
Talks about the fire containment. And the discussion questions are, what would your agency's role be? Now, remember, this didn't necessarily happen in our jurisdiction, but you're being asked to assist. So it's the Episcopal Diocese, Sunnyvale Department of Public Safety, Gardner Health, Catholic Charities. What would your agency's role be to help this neighboring jurisdiction?
From my standpoint, William Brooks here. We have attempted to organize our churches throughout the diocese, which runs from Palo Alto to down south of San Luis Obispo along the ocean side of the Coast Range, into getting themselves, step number one, getting themselves prepared. Step number two, hoping to get them involved with their local VOADs.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them have done it, some have not. Surprise. Probably more not than have acted. In the church I attend, St. Andrews in Saratoga, we have developed an MOU with the city of Saratoga, where we have a large conference room sort of thing, which we have agreed to allow to be used as a
Great. Great. That's wonderful. Okay. Araceli, same type of question. Could you share with us in this scenario? And first of all, if you could answer just like Mahal did, so we can get an idea. What city do you live in?
So I live in the city of Morgan Hill.
I knew it. I had to hear you say that again.
I live in Morgan Hill, but I actually work Catholic Charities, Santa Clara County. And I do recall the fires from last year. I was one of the evacuees. So I was on East End up the hill.
No kidding.
Yeah, so we were part of the evacuees. So we were conversating as CADRE to see about getting activated because of the fact that, so Catholic Charities of Santa Clara County, if they activated us, we would have been able to do intakes and been part of the initial case management of getting intakes for clients. We actually are now through FEMA working with the clients for the SCU fire. We just went up there.
Hi. Hi, Marsha.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Okay. Right.
And
That
Jenny,
one's-
I'm back. I was bounced off. I'm back.
Oh,
All right. So you can see your Jamboard, you can see your group one with Jenny. You're on that slide.
I think so. We're starting to get them up now.
Okay, good.
All right. So I see somebody said their agency's role is centralized communication, financial aid and support, and connecting CBOs. Who posted that one? Are you a government agency?
Yes. That's me, Kayla, at
Oh.
City of Saratoga. Do you want me to add that?
No. I just
Yeah,
wanted to.
you can. You can edit your slide. That's fine.
Cool. Yes, you can.
Trying to pop between the rooms here and make sure that you've got so just so you have your scenario. This is the fire. What are the, if you've had this experience before, what are the things that you're anticipating are going to be needed for all these people? Okay, I think I may stay in this room because we're trying to record it.
It sounded like it was recording.
Yeah, which is good.
It is.
This is the first time that we knew we had that feature because Zoom likes to keep adding things. So we didn't know we could record breakout rooms. So you're the experiment.
There are always new surprises.
Yeah, it's good though. I mean,
Yeah.
it makes this a better platform now to capture information and not have everybody miss out on what's happening in the breakout rooms. Okay, I'm going to mute myself. You guys talk.
Okay. I just wanted to check, I hope I'm not saying anything wrong. Is it Jamie or Jaime?
It's Jaime.
Jaime, would you like to say if you have anything to add, and I can put up the sticky note for you?
Yeah, I'll send it to you on the chat.
Oh, okay, great. And for anyone else who's still typing, the first question again was, what would your agency's role be? I see we have the area agency on aging. You guys would be doing source-wise monitoring, assess and identify disaster needs for older adults, provide assistance like food and transportation. And then it gets cut off. It says report. What was that last part?
So we would report back to the California Department of Aging as they're, working directly with at the state level and the governor, needs for older adults throughout the state.
Okay. Are people still adding for question 1? I'll put on for our organization. All right, so we're going to move on to question 2. So question 2, I feel like we touched a little bit on it in question 1. I see some of them. So for question 2, if you could put in the bottom left corner, what type of assistance your agency would provide and what nonprofits you would also be working with. So I guess like Linda, for you, you could expand a little bit more about. And which nonprofits would we be working with?
I can speak to you about, or do you want me to put it in chat? I do have the app for Jamboard, but when I go there, I'm outside of I can't hear the group or anything.
You can just talk. It's okay.
Okay.
I know you're on your phone, or you can put it in the chat.
Okay. Some of the groups that we would be dealing with at this point, certainly we'd be tied into CADRE, and we'd be managing cases for those people that are in our shelters and those people that come to us at the LAC. and providing the Red Cross services, which is, you know, very finite. It's very defined, and the people that would come to us would need more. And so based on their needs, we would share that information with various cadre members.
We'll put number 2 in the bottom left corner. Awesome. Linda, are you blue? Okay. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you wrote?
Sure. So, you know, SourceWise works with a lot of local nonprofits to serve seniors in Santa Clara County. And so we would be checking on them. Like we did for the pandemic, we sent out a COVID-19 survey in partnership with all these nonprofits, like, you know, Catholic Charities, Health Trusts and whatnot. And they sent out a needs assessment survey that allowed us to understand what how seniors were impacted, and, you know, work with CDA to understand or to get additional funding or resources out to nonprofits and figure out what types of support they specifically needed. And it helped us determine our grant proposal process for emergency services. And so a lot of the information that we received from the COVID-19 survey definitely showed that seniors were facing a lot of impact from social isolation. There wasn't enough activities. And so we focused funding in those areas and digital inclusion.
Thank you. Hey, Kayla, I'm guessing you were the pink one.
Yep.
Okay, would you be?
Sorry.
No worries.
Do you want me to share it out loud?
Yeah, that would be great.
Sure. And now that it's super small, let me try to re-edit it. Okay. So as the or as a local agent or government agency, we would be doing a lot of centralized communication and kind of a hub for connecting our CBOs and FBOs. We would be working, I listed several different nonprofits, CADRE County, the county's Office of Supportive Housing, our ministerial association is a lot of our local churches who might open a facility for shelters, right? I believe the mention was that there were animals that were also put out. So maybe San Jose Animal Services, who the city of Saratoga works with. We have some horse camps and boarding facilities here. So maybe they would have the bandwidth or the supplies necessary to transport them. West Valley Community Services is a huge partner for us. Our senior services are through SASE, Saratoga Area Senior Coordinating Council. And then we also have a rotating safe car park here. So maybe someone who lives in their car but didn't want to go to the shelter. There's probably more, but that's all I could think of on the spot.
Okay, that's okay, because the next question is number 3, which we'll put in the top right corner, is what needs can you anticipate based on the scenarios? So that'll be a good spot for us to put down, you know, all the things that you were just mentioning. So I can put down for Red Cross. I think we might have some overlap in this section too. So I know for the Red Cross, we often notice that our clients' immediate needs, leaving your house right away, especially if there's been a fire, is medical stuff probably tops the list. So medications that may be left behind, lost or damaged, durable medical equipment, glasses, walkers, wheelchairs. They often need easy to access funds, cash, e-cash, I guess, because they're going to need clothing, food. We try to make sure that we're feeding them because that's usually an immediate need. And we also know that going through a traumatic event like a wildfire, they may often need mental health services, or they might want to be connected to somebody from their faith to kind of counsel them through the traumatic process. And so we try to make sure that that's one of the needs that's being taken care of.
I can share while other people are still adding theirs. I shared that food, shelter, medical support, just like Jenny just said, maybe school supplies if you have youth, and maybe it's a local fire versus something that's impacting everyone, right? Like the pandemic, hygiene supplies, transportation, a way to communicate potentially if the city of Saratoga has a lot of older adults, so maybe they only had that landline. Financial support, and then also support with paperwork services might.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. All right. Well, hopefully that was a little bit of fun and gave you a chance. Let me open up, sorry, I got to get all my chat windows back up because I moved things all around here on my screen. So I think what we wanted to do was have each of the rooms give a quick little report out of how their discussions went and kind of maybe one or two key highlights. So if you don't mind, if I can just go in order of the 4 rooms, I believe, Ginny, you were room 1.
Yeah, so we just made it to question 3.
Okay.
And I would say that we had a pretty good mixture in our group. We had a government agency as well as 2 nonprofits. And so it's been interesting to see, the comparison between the 2. And honestly, like we're trying to meet a lot of the similar needs of our clients. Even though we're focused on different groups. So we had the SourceWise, which is area agency on aging, and we had the government who's trying to focus on everybody, and the Red Cross focusing on immediate, evacuees, but we're all trying to get them food, clothing, shelter, medication, cash, everything that they might need right away. And we all pretty heavily rely on groups like CADRE because we need to make sure that we're connecting our clients to the right people. We need that partnership. So I thought that was really interesting that no matter what, we all need to be connected to this big group so that way we can make the right connections for our clients.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ginny. Group 2, Jennifer.
Well, Ginny, group 1, I love you guys, but I'm afraid group 2 was the best group. And we had, wow, what a learning moment. And when we saw the 18-second countdown, we kind of started getting stressed out and decided we wished we were sitting around having coffee and continuing our new relationship. So there were 6 of us in our group, 2 folks representing county, one in Southern California, Orange County, which was really, really cool to learn about how they utilize 211 and their local VOAD, and then our own county OEM here in Santa Clara County, Marsha, who comes from a public health background, was able to share how things were done in Madera County during a large fire. And then, the biggest part of our conversation was 211, the importance of 211 and CADRE. And myself coming from local government, I experienced during the SCU fire wanting to think in a silo because it was easier for me. And I remember being honest with Marsha and saying, darn it, man, I could have used CADRE in 211, but it was so hard for me to break out of my silo. So this was a very valuable discussion for all of us. And we did utilize the Jamboard to capture some notes for you, Anna.
Awesome.
So thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you, Group 2 and Jennifer. I'm going to move on to Groups 3 and 4, but as I'm doing that and as they're speaking, I'm going to launch a poll for you to answer a couple quick questions while we move on for Rich to talk about Group 3.
All right, we had only 5 people in our group, but they were great because we had a variety of agencies represented. We had the Sunnyvale Department of Public Safety. We had Gardner Health System, which I was really amazed to learn they have multiple facilities throughout Santa Clara County, from Gilroy to Atherton. We had Catholic Charities, the operations manager, and then we had Bill from the Episcopal Diocese of El Camino. So we were looking at the relationship between government agencies and nonprofits from both sides. Probably the big takeaway is that, if we're planning for future disasters and establishing relationships between nonprofits and government agencies, that they look at the client base that they serve and the client base that they do not serve, which basically creates a unmet need. And then you can start building those relationships back and forth. And it's really a mutual win-win situation. For the governments, they look at the nonprofits in their jurisdiction, say, in an event of disaster, who can I call on? What can they provide? And for the nonprofits, if they're thinking ahead, they can say, hey, if we have a bad disaster, what can the city or my jurisdiction or my county provide for this? And again, CADRE is a good start for establishing those relationships.
Okay, thanks, Rich. And on to our last Group 4 with Anne.
Okay. Well, we also had a pretty small group, and it was kind of interesting. We have some technical challenges, but we worked it out. Most of the agency reps in our group were still fairly new in their roles and are learning, which just to me emphasizes what a great resource this is. CADRE, the functional teams, the ability to come to classes like these and hear and learn and think about scenarios, as well as to talk to people from other agencies. So, folks kind of know, more, some know than others and so forth, but folks know what their agency would be able to do. They were all, rather than serving individual clients, these agencies were more of a hub. So it's a little different role than, I'm going to get this or that, the other thing. So it's a little different flavor, but just reiterates how important it is to talk to each other, to learn from each other, to network, to use the resources of CADRE to strengthen your network and your ability to serve and your procedures and readiness.
Okay, thank you, Anne. And let's see, let me move us back to our PowerPoint and our poll. So give me 1 second. Let's see. Little technical difficulties on my end. There we go. All right, so let me end the poll. And
Saw the poll.
you saw the poll? Let me share the.
Maybe that's because I'm a host.
Yeah, because you're logged in with us. Let me share the results with you and see if you can see this. So we asked 2 questions in our poll. In the past, did you work with your city or county? 17 out of the 19 of you who responded said yes. And did you work with a CADRE function team or participate in our calls? 13 of you said yes, 2 of you said no. So if you said no to either of these questions, if you don't mind, if you could tell us in the chat box why you weren't able to do why you said no to either question. It's a way for us to understand a little bit better why, how, or if CADRE could be more useful or beneficial to both government and nonprofits in future events. And so if you weren't actively coordinating with your local jurisdiction, the city or the county, or you weren't actively participating with CADRE, anything that you might want to share with us or the group on those 2 points, we welcome your feedback. And with that, I'm going to transition back to Marsha. She's got a couple more things to share with you. So our next slide.
Yay, there's always more to share. Okay, so this slide is just a couple of screenshots of the new disaster registration site that CADRE has purchased. And so it's our own software. It's going to change the way we serve clients. So as soon as people are evacuating to a temporary evacuation point, they'll be able to access a website URL or a QR code and immediately enter themselves into the disaster registry for our county. And as we look at the local assistance center, you'll see how this might be helpful going forward. Next slide. This is just a couple of pictures of the Coyote Creek Flood Local Assistance Center. And next slide. So let's see, what is it? Who sets it up? Why do we have them? So it's set up by government. A city or the county can set up one or more local assistance centers somewhere in proximity to where the evacuees are so that they have the easiest time getting to it. It can fall in the recovery branch in the Emergency Operations Center, but in some jurisdictions it's another incident command system function, but it's a responsibility somewhere within the Emergency Operations Center. Who participates? Government can request assistance from outside organizations or from local, state, and federal government if it was a federal declaration. So usually the city will talk to CADRE and say, we want to open up a LAC, and then we'll let the CADRE partners know and get names of people that are going to be participating, and then government will reach out to the state to do things like have a representative there that can replace driver's licenses or other documents. How-to guidance